Hi guys, this is Lisha from Scarlet Creations, and I'm back with a new video. This is my 4+ book series review video for hrcyed. hrcyed stands for Hardest Reading Challenge You'll Ever Do. It's created by QWERTY. I'll put the announcement video down in the comments below so you can learn more. But this is a year-long challenge with 25 prompts, and once you realize what the prompts are, you'll see why it's the hardest reading challenge you ever do. That being said, I swear one piece pops up, and anyway, what I decided to do was make videos for each prompt as I complete them. And the first prompt that I have completed is to read a 4+ book series. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided to pick a manga series. And I'm looking at my phone so I can pull up the full instructions for this particular challenge. Start and finish a series with 4 or more books, and find a series that has 4 or more books in it and read the whole thing. I have done that. The manga series that I chose is one that I had been interested in, and I was like, oh wait, that has 4. Boys Run the Riot. Are they upside down? Of course they are. Boys and now they're backwards, yes. So yeah, Boys Run the Riot. This is a series book, volumes 1 through 4. I read the first 2 digitally via Libby, and the other 2 physically. And because these 2 didn't come in time. Okay, this is a manga series by Kaito Gakko, and it's for teens, 16 and up is what it says. Published in Japan and in the US by Kodansha Comics. So, I heard about this series, I believe, from Ashley at Realm of Comics. Link in the description. And first of all, I love these covers. I was like, oh, what's that? I think she was giving like a very brief synopsis of book 1, and I was like vaguely interested. And then I saw the covers, and I was like, well, you got me, because I love all the different colors. And then having read it, I can see how they play with the artistic style, the fashion, and the matte versus glossy, and making certain having multiple scenes going on. Well, not really in this one, but the other 3, they're like panels. So I would tell you my ratings at this point, but Storygraph is on, first it seemed scheduled maintenance, now it's unscheduled maintenance, and I'm irritated. I know I gave all of them 3.5 and above. Book 1 was definitely 3.5. Like, I was in the middle of writing down the ratings, so I wouldn't have to look at my phone when scheduled maintenance started. And they said only 5 minutes. 20 minutes later, it switched to unscheduled maintenance. Either 3 or 2 or 3, I gave 1 4 stars and 1 4.5 stars, and I believe volume 4 I gave 4 stars. So in general, like, and maybe I should bump up the first volume. These are all each over 200 pages with all the extras and stuff, but about 209 pages The shortest one is volume 2 at 174 pages. But anyway, what is this series about? I'm gonna go into spoilers at some point, so I'll put it on the screen just so you know, because otherwise this will be a really short video. And you know I don't do that on purpose. So, volume 1 of Boys Run the Riot. I mean, the whole story, we're following Rio, who is a transgender teenager in high school. He knows he's trans, but does not feel comfortable or confident to tell anyone else this, despite the fact that he dresses as much as he can in boys' clothes. Fortunately, he goes to a mixed gender school, and the girls are supposed to wear skirt uniform, and yeah. So anyway, that being said, one day, before we get into that, Rio only really feels confident and comfortable when he gets to wear what he likes, or when shopping for the clothes that he likes. One day, while shopping, he bumps into the new transfer kid in his class, and after a bit, they kind of strike up a friendship, and Jin, the transfer student, asks Rio to start a fashion brand with him. And the story goes from there. In all 4 volumes. It doesn't mention starting a fashion brand in the synopsis on the back of the volume, but I feel like it is germane. It's a plot point throughout the whole thing. And so you should know that. It was a happy surprise for me. So, themes that I really enjoyed. The questioning throughout a lot of this, I was unsure if Rio was sure that he is transgender, I quite honestly was going to put this, or at least one of these volumes, under the questioning section for the rainbow LGBT prompt for this challenge. But after finally reading the synopsis on the back, I'm like, okay, there's not questioning of that. It's questioning everything else, which is understandable. You slowly get to unravel all of the various situations that Rio is contemplating and worried about and going through as a normal teenager, really, and the evolution of his various relationships, mostly the friendships with certain other kids in the school, including Jin, and also like other kids and older people, as young adults, like older people, young adults, teachers, bosses, mentors, parents, his older brother, all of that. There's themes of like communication and discussion, like how do you expect people to understand and treat you the way you feel most comfortable if you don't tell them. They can't just guess. They can ask a lot of questions. They can try really hard based on their assumptions because they don't have experience with a transgender person. And that can be a mismatch of things. There's the discussion of fashion. There's the discussions of coming out or not coming out or outing people. There's themes of business, starting a fashion business, expressing yourself through art of various kinds, There's themes of bullying, of course, because why wouldn't there be? And obviously there's discussions and themes of gender and what is prescribed to what gender versus another. So I appreciated all of that. I feel like plot wise, obviously the revelations and coming out of as being transgender is one, but also, like I said, a major theme is fashion and expression through art, and there's a found family aspect because that's one of my favorite tropes of all time. But and then being a teenager, they weren't annoying teens for me. There were less than a handful of moments where certain people I was just like, bro, you gotta be kidding me. But it is what it is. Art wise, I love this. Like, I was committed once I saw the covers. I've had this on my TBR since last year, and finally, like I said, looking at it, I was like, oh, there's 4 volumes. Let me read them. Half I read the first 2 in August and the second 2 in like the first day of September, just because that's when I got to them. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I would like to see more because I would like to see where their brand goes and where life takes them. But that was not the main, even though it was maybe a secondary plot line. So that is it for the spoiler-free section. If you want to hear more, let's keep going. If not, this is where you should stop. I'm going to go into details about each volume because this is really cool. So volume 1, where you know we meet Rio. We also meet Jin, and Jin and Rio meet each other. Rio has a crush on a girl in his school, and then so there's that. And he hates being physically female when inside he feels male. One of the things that caught me from the beginning was the fashion. I told you, like, the covers. So this is not the type of art style that you really get too much of in manga, right? Like their faces or whatever. But like, first of all, Jin is not a guy that I see in manga. I see in dramas, like J-drama, K-dramas, of all kinds, but not like, and you know, in those like walking videos, and you see regular Japanese guys that will look like this, or be styled like this. And like you see, do the undercut and the long hair in high school. Bro's got some hair in his chin, and so like that caught my attention immediately. The stance, the drapes of the clothes, just from the cover, like look at how that bomber jacket is sitting on him. Again, I don't read tons of manga, so maybe I'm just ignorant, but I love it. And then like here's Rio when he gets to dress himself, and I was just like, that's a fly ass outfit. It's like, it better be autumn or whatever, but it is really cool. The graffiti elements I also loved. Rio is a graffiti artist on the low and kind of gets caught at it. Like, look at this. They just dudes around the way, and I love that. Again, like, drawing clothes on characters is not easy, and they obviously have different body types, even if they have similar styles. They both like streetwear to baggy extent. But not just like throwing on and wear like, you know, most people do. So that pops up too. The couple of things I really loved about this is like Rio is relatable in that you already assume people dislike you or they're not going to understand, so you don't say anything. If they do something wrong, like Jin said something that hurt Rio, but he was talking to other people, but Jin, not knowing that Rio was transgender, didn't realize that that would be hurtful. And then they kind of had a little bit of a tiff about it later. And Jin was just like, well, why don't you just explain it to me? So, and kind of light bulb went off over Rio's head, like, that's a thing that I can do and you'd be willing to listen. Maybe I'm just, you know, conjecture here. This is something that never occurred to Rio before. Maybe it was easier because Jin is new, a stranger, not somebody who grew up with like all of their classmates. Right. There's assumptions about Jin because of the way he looks, and like, you know, he must be some kind of gangster. A lot of the classmates are scared of him, and it's a whole thing. The starting of a fashion brand like kind of comes out of nowhere. Jin is also really uber confident and like takes no shit from no one, and that can be intimidating. So I can understand why the other kids are like, but we also get a glimpse about how some of the teachers are feeling both about Jin and about Rio. More so about Jin in this volume, which is like, again, they assume a lot about him. His grades are not great, but it's like, wait a minute, y'all are adults. Assuming some type of social maturity should have happened in all this time. You guys should have figured out that you can't quite judge a book by its cover, and you're supposed to be equally helping all the kids in this school, right? So that was interesting. We also get a third character in here that joins their business, and how that happens is through some bullying. There is a kind of antagonist or an antagonistic boy in the school that, you know, comes into like shit all over their ideas and dreams just because he can. And I think it's like this popular kid who's just like, why are these boys getting attention all of a sudden? Because none of them are used to it. But yeah, so we get another character who joins them as the photographer. He really likes it, and he was friends with the popular boy, but dude crushed his camera, and I was like, you have got to be joking. But yeah, they all have some doubts. Well, not Jin. Jin's like, I'm doing this. This is happening. I don't know why you guys have doubts. But I was just like, okay, this is good. So maybe I will go back and bump this back up to a 4. Alright, so volume 2. Oh, I had it upside down. Volume 2 is the shortest one. They realize that, you know, they want to run a business. They're gonna need some money to do all the supplies or whatever. And so they all go looking for jobs. Rio tries to apply for jobs as a boy, and that doesn't always work out. Even when the bosses are mostly fine with it, like, yeah, sure, whatever, the idea of letting Rio change in with the guys rather than the female staff is not something they're willing to allow. So, but he does eventually get a job where the boss doesn't care as long as they show up, and he gets to wear the uniform that the guys wear. Well, everybody wears the same uniform, so no problem. One of the reasons they're doing this, like I said, is to get more money. They are trying to like reach out and get their clothes into stores. Obviously, the store owners are like, but we don't even know you, right? People sell clothes from either brands that are well known or up and coming, so like in the industry known, and they are nobody literally. So they have like one t-shirt. They had a very tiny viral moment in their neighborhood once, and that was it, one design. So the push is to try to figure out how they're going to do this going forward. Rio starts running into issues at his job because, and I saw this coming, but I was like, let me not assume, but it's him and only one girl, and the rest are all guys, and everybody's like buddy buddy or whatever, and they decide, hey, let's hang out, and Rio's a little uncomfortable, but his female coworker is like, yeah, let's do this. This should be fun, right? They've gotten close and friendly. And then come to find out, only two of the guys showed up. The two came up with the idea, and it was only because they liked Rio and the other girl. And the girl. Like, it's really interesting because now Rio's questioning, do I like men or women, and how does that define my sexuality, when all this time he's only been thinking about his gender, and he really wants to be friends with all of his coworkers, but the way the guys are treating him is not exactly the way he wants. It's like a girl, and it's okay, but like, what does that mean? Right. It's really interesting to see somebody like, oh, you could be whoever you want, but I cannot date somebody like that because I just can't see you any other way. So do you, and we just can't be around each other, which is like, I guess because he was confused, and nobody likes to be confused, but I was just like, Now, the female coworker is here on the cover with them, and you'll start to see, like, the similarities. So, what I meant by panels is this in the middle, the matte part, right? Their faces are always glossy, but the background and their outfits here are their work clothes. And then these are their regular clothes. What they wear like out and about on the side. You can see it here with this one. This center panel is their school uniforms, and the outside is what they wear outside. So that's the thing. I really enjoy Mizuki. He's unsure of his relationship with her because like she is probably what would be considered a tomboy and not transgender, right? A pretty girl who just likes to have some more masculine clothing in, I guess, traditional societal way sometimes. But she smokes, she curses, she puts up with no shit. She has no problem getting into fights. And I think that confused Rio a little bit. Her confidence being like that and still being okay identifying as a female and being a female. So, but so cool. So cool. I really appreciated that. Conversation at the end with Rio and the other co-workers was really interesting. This is also the beginning of a new storyline because another one of their classmates, Rio and Jin, on the low has been following, their whole starting a fashion brand journey quietly, and come to find out he's actually cousins with a famous YouTuber who is also known to be transgender. And so he's like, I can hook you guys up with my cousin. So that's the beginning of that. And then we've got volume 3 here, which, man, we'll just go straight into the panels here. In the middle is what they wear on the regular, and on the outside is their school outfits. Rio tends to get around wearing the skirt uniform at school by wearing the gym uniform, which is this thing, which is pants anyway. This other character is Tsubasa? So at the end of volume 2, I'm going to put a trigger warning because Rio is outed without his consent to tens of thousands of people by this YouTuber. And so the consequences come here. Like, it's a cliffhanger ending with that. And Wing is the name of the YouTuber's channel. And they're like, yeah, I totally endorsed their brand because of this guy who is a transgender boy. And everybody's like, oh yeah, they get a ton of sales, but now everybody in the school who apparently all, if not, well, most, if not all of them following are like, oh, Rio's trans. We didn't know that. Again, here comes popular boy who's a pain in the ass, and it's just like, oh, you're just using that as a gimmick to make money, right? And Jin is just using you. That's why he picked you out. And I was just like, wow, you're an asshole. Oh, you're an asshole. There was a really cool discussion in here between Jin and the photographer kid. I forget his name. About how, like, because he was outed, Rio didn't come to school. So everybody's just speculating, like, is he, isn't he, is this a gimmick, is it not, yada yada yada, right? And then, like, is that real, as people do. And the bully popular boy confronted Jin and was like I said, this is a gimmick. You saw that she likes to dress up in boys' clothing, and you're just using it so you can get money or whatever, because clearly you're like a delinquent and all this other nonsense. A lot of assumptions. And is it fair that she wants attention and you guys want money and we all have to listen to this? and Jin doesn't say anything. So Jin and the other boy, who's their photographer, kind of have a discussion. He's like, "Why didn't you defend Rio?" And Jin is like, I don't know what to say." To an extent, I feel like that dude doesn't need an explanation. Like, he's not part of their business and he's not part of their friendship, so he doesn't deserve an explanation. But on the other hand, it's like, you feel like you're supposed to defend your friends when they're not there. And I think at this point, Jin was trying to figure out what Rio would be okay with him saying. Rio was on, what's the word? Rio was outed without permission. Does that give Jin now permission to out him even more when he's not there as a defense? No. But also, Rio has now disappeared. He's not coming to school. He's not coming to their business meetings. So, like, how are they supposed to? They don't know, like, what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. And Jin is very like, I don't deal with people I don't need to. So that was an interesting conversation. And then we find out more about Wing and their background, because shortly after this, their boss asked them, "Hey, you know, that brand, they got a lot of sales because of us, so you should bring us in. You should, do more with them. Bring that transgender boy here and do more videos with them, so because they owe us." And while he's debating that, Wing gets outed. He's out as transgender female, but he always says in his videos he doesn't have sex with girls. He's never had sex with girls. And then somebody posts a picture of him from behind, like, "Hey, my friend who's a girl had sex with Wing. He looks like a total regular dude without all that makeup on." And so everybody's like, "Have you been lying all this time?" And so like the whole internet online situation comes up here, and how people make assumptions and dogpile. And now it's like, "Oh, you've been lying to us about this. What else have you been lying? Have you been lying this whole time about being transgender in the first place?" And I can understand that, because, one lie, it's like, well, you hear one lie, find out one lie that somebody's told you. Do you doubt? Do you not doubt that they've lied to you about other things? Do you now question everything they've told you? Yes. But it was a whole thing, and then Rio and Jin and the other kid, I really should look his name get back to, come together. Rio comes to class dressed in the boy's uniform, his older brother's uniform, and is like, "I'm gonna make an announcement," and gets to come out himself, and that's nice. And decides to give somewhat of an explanation, and put the bully boy down. Yeah, shut him up. I appreciate that. The situation with Wing, they fully support Wing and then lose all of any new fans and followers and orders or whatever promptly. But like, this is going too far. And Wing and Rio have yet another conversation, because they had asked Wing to take the video down, and Wing was like, "No, I never do that." But changed his mind. They changed their mind, and the only persons they're willing to explain themselves to is Rio and Jin and the other kid. In the meanwhile, realizing that they're not alone and their cousin has their back. So there's discussions in this one about gender fluidity and what makes you transgender, and how making your identity your business, or in the public's business in a different sense, kind of cements you into a certain archetype or identity. And like, if that changes, people can and will turn on you and see you as a liar or two-faced, which again, I really appreciate the cover art for. There's also some confrontations that Rio has to have now with, his school friends who he's known forever, including that girl he has a crush on, because she had no idea. She's feeling hurt, and she finds out about Rio's coworkers, who she doesn't know is a coworker, and sees that him hugging another girl, and is just like, oh. So there's that. Also, there's a conversation with Rio's brother, the older brother, whose clothes he's been wearing a lot. Kind of cool, in my opinion. And we kind of end with a weird scene or two where some guy, Joe-san, is looking at their social media site. So, last but not least, we have Volume 4. And this is the photographer boy I've been talking about. So I keep forgetting his name because it's not mentioned very often. So we're back to Rio in school, and things have calmed down, and Rio is like living out in open, wearing the boys' uniform at school, even though his parents still don't know. And his brother is like, you need to tell our parents. Like, I've known since you were a little kid, but you need to tell them. So Rio's like, no. But in the meantime, they bump into the dude who shop they wanted to sell their clothes in before, and he was really rude the first time in the previous volume. And they're like, Jin was rude back, but now they're like, well, what do you think? And at least give us some advice. And he's just like, you guys are a ship that's gonna sink. You can't just be doing this just because it's fun. That's not how you become successful, right? And so they're all upset again and discouraged, and they bump into some dude, Joe-san, who is like, oh yeah, I've had a fashion brand for 20 years now. And they're like, hey, can we visit and, can you mentor us? And he's like, sure. So they go over and they see his setup or whatever. This is not like haute couture or anything like that, guys. He's selling t-shirts and street clothes too. But he starts explaining to them, like, you need a business model, essentially. You need to figure out what's your goal, where you're going. Once they explain what that dude said about their ship is gonna sink, he's like, oh, okay. So it's a stupid metaphor, but it kind of makes sense. Like, you got to think of your business like a cruise ship. People go for the destination. Like, where are we going? What's the point? What message are you trying to send? Where are you trying to take people with your clothes? And once you have that, you can figure out the motif, which is like how you present that message, and that will become like the brand of you. That will become the brand of your clothing line, and you go from there. He gives them examples. It basically gives them homework, and they talk about it, and you kind of see again how their thoughts about life and their experiences in life influence their art and the fashion, and they individually like come up with what they think or what they want to get out of having this fashion brand. And come to find out, there's a lot of overlap for the three of them, and which was really cool. Also, we get more background on Jin, which was very sparse. So you find out like where he's come from to an extent, and you know, his family life really, and it's interesting, but also it's like, okay, that explains why he's like a rebellious type. And you also see them like building this brand, like solidifying it. Now they have a destination for themselves as a brand as well, and it's really cool. They get invited to this like showcase thing where they can set up a pop-up. They come up with more designs, and they start telling their friends and whatnot. And he's like, okay, well, you gotta tell more people so more people can come and check out your stuff, because my brand will be there and I have like some loyal customers, but they're not necessarily going to be interested in a new brand that is not similar. So the photographer kid, oh my god, I really need to look up his name. He winds up convincing the other two, like, tell your parents. Like, I understand why you don't want to, but that was part of our journey here. And I was like, yes. Like, coming out, being yourself, that's the point, half the point of this brand, being able to express yourself. And you guys gotta tell your parents. They're gonna find out eventually, first of all, and second of all, you never know how they actually are going to react. It wasn't like rainbows and unicorns and oh my god, we love you no matter what. That is not what happened in either situation, but it's like, it's out there, and they can be their true selves now, no more hiding or lying, and that was great. I really appreciated that. I like Joe-san. He's very funny, and his assistant be like, bruh, we are working and you are playing with kids. The ending of this was a nice culmination. I feel like it was a good place to end. Things weren't solved, problems weren't fixed, but I think they all know themselves better and each other, and they know their business and this brand. And if I haven't said it by now, the brand is Boys Run the Riot, and so that's why the series is called Boys Run the Riot. I just really appreciated this. Like, there's some scenes where they're dealing with customers who are poo-pooing everything they do. It's really cool. The creative aspect, the expressing yourself through your art form, through your fashion, and then like coming together. This was their exhibit setup, which is really cool. I would totally wear. No, they did not wind up in a fashion show, as you can see. This cover, but what's also really cool, like, about this cover is there's no more like dichotomy in panels here. They're all 100% themselves, and I think that wraps it up quite nicely. I felt like there was something I wanted to say, and I realized like halfway through what it was. Itsuka is the name of the photographer. Okay, Itsuka. Oh, so a thing I forgot to mention is the series is owned voices. The author is transgender, and they purposefully wrote this to have the story out there. What was I gonna say? This was originally a one-shot work that won an award, and so that one shot is included in the back. And absolutely enjoyed that too. It's a little harsher, but you can see where the various story threads kind of started. So yes, do check out Boys Run the Riot. I'm so happy that I read this because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I also am happy that I completed one of the 25 prompts for the hardest reading challenge I'll ever do, that we'll all ever do. And yeah, guys, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you are new, hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. I'm doing these as I finish the prompts. Some of them are year-long prompts, like seasonal, or read a book for every month of the the challenge. So those won't be coming to the end, but others we'll see as I finish them, and you'll get those updates. I'm not going to super review these in my monthly wrap-ups, so don't worry about that. But I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.